And what is even more annoying is the fact when the president's media aide was now comparing the deaths of people to the one of the last administration.
That was completely shocking. That was, I didn't even want to bother with that because it just made no sense to me. But I mean, I want to talk about security now. And this is, well, into the fourth year of this presidency, we haven't seen a change at all of the defense team, if I may use that word, the Minister of Defense, the service chiefs from the Chief of Defense Staff down. And these are the people who are supposed to be in charge of lives and security in this country. And we constantly see the same, it's almost repetitive now, from Benue State to Plateau State along the Middle Belt Coast. It's moving across states as it is now. You know, the tolls may not be as many as we've seen in Plateau State, but it's happening, and it continues to happen. And when we had the issue in the past with the militants, and now that it's completely gone away, we had people who we knew we could sort of negotiate with or talk to. Same thing happened with Boko Haram. There was a name, or there were names of their leadership we kind of knew. With this particular case, it just seems like there's nobody to hold. We just know, oh, these are Fulani herdsmen, or there's Mieti Allah on the side, who we don't even know how well linked they are to. Why is it so hard to even sort of understand the group as a whole?
I think part of it is also what I said about understanding different cultures. So I think what I've found out recently is, so people rear cattle. So the people who walk through Nigeria rearing their cattle and grazing on land are not the owners of the cattle. So which is where I think Mieti Allah Cattle Rearers Association. So there's an association of cattle who own cattle. Then
the herders are different.
No, but there might be one. So you can have herders that own, but
well,
some are basically employed to herd on behalf of commercial owners. So there's that in the mix. Then it's not just, I mean, if you look at it from Benue to Kaduna to Adama, wherever, the Fulani herdsmen get named for everything, if I want to use that word. And I think the point is that I don't think that's fair, but because a lot of the reporting and a lot of what people say happens, it's like saying, how do I phrase this? Because someone has always done something now happens in another place, it's easy to ascribe blame to that one person. Exactly. Now, a state like Benue, for example, now has an anti-grazing law. And one of the things that I found that's actually quite difficult to implement, because you're meant to carry the cattle and put them somewhere so that they don't graze freely. Yeah. But the facilities to do that don't exist. So you have a law that is hard to implement. Then
so where do you keep them?
Exactly, where do you keep them, and who do you hold accountable? And then the second bit about it is not necessarily, I don't think you need a name or a group in terms of negotiating, because if it's just a function of we're working with limited resources in terms of land, water, an increased population, and people are going through a community and their issues, community clashes. I mean, Ebonyi and Cross River, for example, I think last week, I forget quite a number of people died as well, but doesn't get as much media mileage because as someone says, as Fulani herdsmen were not blamed in that community clashes, exactly. So if you have those kinds of conversations, where do people go in understanding who, what, and when? And not necessarily a group to negotiate with, but what is the cultural force that puts, and I think that's what you were alluding to, Dolapo, that puts a man who, cattle it's priced, it's an asset, it has value. And the way they manage and treat it, it's the way they do their thing. So how do you, it's not a negotiating with a group, but it's understanding a culture, understanding a people, and then putting things in place within a multi-ethnic and multicultural society that we have that makes room for everybody. So if I know that I'm in a community and my cow is stolen or harmed, I can report to an authority and there's restitution. There's no reason for me to take justice into my own hands. But if that doesn't exist, then we have jungle justice. I'm trying to break it down so we don't think of it as some exoteric thing with just cattle and lives, but it's really a function of when people don't feel that my way of life is respected or honored, and if people disrespect it, nothing happens. Then you have jungle justice. And we see that we're in Lagos. We see that in Lagos a lot. Someone steals 500 naira and people are ready to burn the person alive because there's an immediateness of, you've harmed me, I'm going to get exact revenge. So I think it's, for this particular case, I'm not quite sure it's more of a negotiating with the body, but understanding the driving forces.
But how come we still don't have, at least to my knowledge, we haven't had one arrest even? I'm not even talking conviction now, or even sort of, there doesn't seem, I don't know if you're following me here, Dolak, but there doesn't seem, this at least on a national conversation level has been going on for about 2-3 years now. We still don't have one person we've said, oh, we've caught this one. You know, it was, how many have they been, and do you think it's been strong enough to make a difference? If maybe that's what I'm going with it.
There have been some arrests, but I think at least in Ekiti, when Fayose did that law, they arrested one and all, at least one that I can remember. But it hasn't been enough, because the way, and it's basically, I think it still falls on the government, because the government has not tackled this thing the way they approached the IPOB issue or the way they approached other issues. So they have been kind of more laid back, like, okay, maybe they have this approach that when it happens, we apologize and we'll go back and all that. But there has not been any hard stance on the group. There has not been a constant approach towards the situation. Unlike IPOB, okay, maybe because there is a face to IPOB, and maybe that's because there is more organized, it's an organization that is known, so they can approach it that way. Maybe that's the challenge.
Let's go on a break. That was what I was alluding to with the question about, I wasn't necessarily talking about negotiating with them. I just thought it was interesting that we still don't know who these people are. But we'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation and find out what we can, where we can go from here, if at all, and if there's going to be some sort of hope for us. We'll be right back.